The invitation had been embossed. Thick ivory cardstock, minimalist black lettering, a subtle seal in the corner that meant money without screaming it. The kind of card people kept on their desks for a day, just so others would see it. Arielle Park almost didn't come. Not because she wasn't supposed to be there. She was. Her name was on the list, exactly as it should be, spelled correctly. She had checked twice anyway, because old habits were stubborn things, and because this kind of room had once taught her what it felt like to be looked through. Arielle stood in front of the mirror longer than usual, smoothing the fabric at her waist, checking the fall of the dress again. Nothing flashy, nothing begging for approval, just clean lines, elegant simplicity. The deep emerald dress fit her perfectly, tailored but understated, the kind of quiet luxury that didn't ask for attention but always received it. Her skin glowed warm against the fabric, rich brown and smooth. Her natural curls were worn down, soft and controlled, framing her face in a way that made her look composed even when she wasn't. Her features were gentle but strong. Full lips, steady eyes, the kind of face that people underestimated until they realized she didn't bend easily. It wasn't insecurity, it was calculation. There was a difference. Working had been her choice. Remaining visible had been her choice too. Most people assumed she didn't need to work, and they weren't wrong, but assumptions were lazy. The truth was more precise. She didn't need to work to survive, but she needed to work to breathe, to feel like she existed outside of wealth and protection, and the constant silent orbit of power that followed her marriage. Her husband never argued with her about it. Kang Jae-min had asked her once, careful, like he didn't want to step on something fragile. "Do you like it?" he had said, watching her at the kitchen counter one morning, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, dark eyes still sharp from whatever night he'd had. Jae-min was tall, broad-shouldered without looking bulky, his presence quiet but undeniable. The kind of man whose stillness carried more authority than most men's anger. His hair was always perfectly cut, black and neat, his expression controlled even at rest. When he looked at her, though, something softer always surfaced beneath the steel. Arielle had nodded, because the answer wasn't simple, but it was true. "I like being mine," she had said. A flicker had crossed his face then, pride maybe, or relief. "Then you'll keep it," he'd replied, not a suggestion, a promise. And later, quietly, "If anyone makes you feel small, tell me." She hadn't told him then what she told herself now. "I don't want to need you for everything. Needing someone could become a cage if you weren't careful." But tonight she did want him beside her. The gallery opening wasn't her world, not truly. It was his. The building was one of those sleek, glass and stone structures that made the city look expensive just by existing. 3 floors of curated space in a neighborhood where the sidewalks seemed cleaner and the streetlights brighter. The kind of place where people said darling like punctuation and acted as if public kindness was a performance. Jae-min had wanted her here. Not because he needed her to stand on his arm as decoration, he didn't need anything like that, but because there were events that mattered, and this one mattered in the way subtle things did. Donations, alliances, appearances, a new artist being introduced, a new wing unveiled, a room full of faces that would remember who stood where. He'd told her he would meet her at the entrance. "I'll be there," he said earlier, pressing a kiss to her forehead like he was sealing a vow. "I might be late. Don't wait outside. Go in." His phone vibrated against his palm even as he spoke. He glanced down, jaw tightening for the briefest second before the mask slid back in place. Work. Always work. He didn't look guilty when he left, because he never promised what he couldn't control. But Arielle had still felt the faint sting of it. The reminder that some parts of his life belonged to shadows she didn't touch. She arrived exactly on time anyway. Inside, the air smelled of champagne and clean money. The gallery was bright but not harsh, lit with careful intention so the art looked alive. People drifted between pieces like they were floating, the murmur of conversation low and constant. A quartet played in the corner, soft strings that made the whole room feel like it was holding its breath. The dress code was creative formal, which meant everyone was dressed to be noticed without admitting they wanted attention. Arielle kept her posture straight and her expression calm. She could do this. She could stand in this room and be present without shrinking. She checked her phone once, just once, no message. She slipped it back into her clutch. A staff member passed with a tray of drinks. She took a flute of champagne because refusing would draw attention, and attention was the last thing she wanted until he arrived. She moved slowly through the space, pausing in front of a large canvas, abstract, bold strokes of color that looked like anger being transformed into beauty. She found herself staring too long, not because she understood it, but because she felt it. A few people glanced at her and looked away. Not hostile, not curious, assessing. She had learned to recognize that gaze early in her life, the look people gave when they couldn't place you, when they didn't know your last name, when they couldn't immediately categorize whether you mattered. It used to make her stomach knot. Now it just made her shoulders settle more firmly. She didn't need their approval. She only needed to not become prey. She had just turned toward the sculpture installation, white stone figures arranged in a circle like they were frozen mid-conversation, when she felt it. That shift. Like the temperature changed without warning. A laugh cut through the room, too loud, too familiar, like a blade wrapped in velvet. Her whole body went still. No, not here, not tonight. She didn't turn right away. She didn't flinch. She didn't give him the satisfaction of seeing anything move in her face, but she knew the sound of him the way you knew the sound of a door in your childhood home, the hinge squeak that always came before something unpleasant. Footsteps approached from behind, unhurried, confident. Then his voice, warm with cruelty, pitched perfectly for an audience. "Well," he drawled, "look what the gallery let in." Arielle's fingers tightened around her glass so hard the stem pressed into her skin. She turned. Ethan Cole stood there smiling like a man who had never faced a consequence in his life. Ethan was tall, handsome in a polished frat boy way. Expensive haircut, perfect teeth, the kind of face that had always been rewarded. His tailored coat screamed generational money. He had the relaxed arrogance of someone who had never had to wonder if doors would open for him. Two men hovered near him, Logan, loud, broad, already half smiling like he'd come for entertainment, and Brent, thinner, sharper eyes, phone always close to his hand, the kind of man who loved having proof. Ethan's gaze slid over Arielle slowly. She didn't move, she didn't recoil, she didn't give him anything, and for half a second, just half, his smile faltered. Because he had expected her to be smaller. He had expected her to be embarrassed, to shrink, to apologize for existing. She wasn't that woman anymore, but the last time he had seen her, she had still been learning how to hold her spine. Back then, he had loved her composure. Until it stopped bending for him. He lifted his brows, feigning surprise. "You're here." She took a slow breath in through her nose, grounding herself. "Yes," she said softly. "I am." Logan snickered like it was a joke. Brent's eyes flicked to her dress with open appraisal, judging the fabric, the cut, the fact that it wasn't trying too hard, like he wanted to find a flaw and couldn't. Ethan's mouth curved again, sharper now. I'll be damned. She didn't ask what he was doing here, because she didn't care, and because she refused to give him the satisfaction of thinking he still had access to her life. "It's a public event," she said evenly. "Enjoy the art." She turned away. That was the mistake. Not because it was wrong, because it was right. He hated being dismissed more than he hated being told no. She felt him step closer, felt the heat of his presence, like he was trying to crowd her, reclaim space. "Don't walk away from me," Ethan said, voice still smooth, still performative. "Not after everything, everything." She kept her face neutral even as a memory tried to surface. Late-night arguments, his hand gripping her wrist too tight, his laughter afterward when she asked him to stop acting like she owed him. She had left without drama, quietly, with dignity. No shouting in hallways, no tearful scenes. He had never forgiven her for not breaking. She turned back slowly, meeting his eyes. "In this room," she said softly, "you don't have anything to do with my life." His smile went still. Logan and Brent exchanged glances. This wasn't going how they expected. Ethan leaned in a fraction, lowering his voice like intimacy was a weapon. "You think you're too good now?" She didn't answer immediately, because she could feel eyes turning toward them, because she could feel the room beginning to notice, and because somewhere, deep in her chest, she felt the quiet thrum of something she hadn't had the last time she stood in front of him. Safety. Not the kind you could see, not yet, but the kind that existed because he was supposed to be here. Because Kang Jae-min would walk through those doors any minute, and when he did, the world would rearrange itself. She checked her phone again without meaning to, still nothing. A small hollow opened in her stomach. She steadied herself. She did not look afraid. Ethan's gaze followed the movement, and his expression sharpened as if he'd found a crack. Waiting for someone? She held her chin level. That's not your concern. Oh, Ethan said, laughing again, loud, cruel. So the gallery did let anybody in. Logan chuckled like he was watching a show. Brent's hand slipped into his pocket, and his phone appeared. He didn't even bother hiding it. He lifted it, angling it toward her face, recording. Arielle's breath caught for just a beat, not panic, rage, a clean, bright fury that warmed her spine. Her voice stayed soft. Put it away, she said. Brent's grin widened. Why? You don't want people to see you? Ethan's eyes glittered. He loved this, loved an audience, loved the moment where he could make her feel like she was nothing. She could feel the room shifting now, curiosity turning heads. And still, no sign of Jae-min. She swallowed the hollow feeling down. She would not collapse because a man was late. She would not become that kind of fragile. She set her champagne glass down on a nearby pedestal with careful control, fingers steady despite the tension in her veins. Then she looked at Ethan with calm precision. You are embarrassing yourself, she said quietly, and you're going to stop. Something flickered in his face, surprise first, then anger, because the line had not been delivered for the room. It wasn't performative, it wasn't pleading, it was a boundary. And boundaries were something he had never respected, especially not from her. He stepped closer, smile gone now. You think you can talk to me like that? She didn't move backward, she didn't raise her voice. But she met him head on. I just did, she said. Logan laughed, a harsh sound, like he couldn't believe the audacity of it. And Ethan's eyes narrowed. He looked around the room, sensing the attention, needing to reclaim dominance. Then he looked back at her, and his voice lifted again, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Tell me, he said, leaning in like he was sharing a secret. Do you even belong here? Her heart thudded. Not because the question hurt, because it was the kind of question that used to. She held his gaze. Yes, she said softly. That was when he smiled again, not a charming smile, a mean one. And in the corner of her vision she saw Brent adjust his grip, zooming in, hungry for something messy. Ethan tilted his head, voice dripping with poison. Then prove it. And Arielle realized there would be no reasoning with him. For a few seconds after Ethan's last words nothing happened. Not because the moment had passed, because the room was holding it. People pretended to study the art. They pretended to sip their drinks. They pretended not to see the way three men had cornered one woman beside a sculpture display. But pretending did not mean they weren't watching. Belong. A couple nearby slowed, pretending to admire a painting while very clearly listening. Arielle could feel her heartbeat in her ears. She could also feel something steadier beneath it. Resolve. She did not owe these men softness. She did not owe them explanations. She turned her body slightly, angling herself away from Brent's camera and toward the sculpture display, creating space without retreating. I'm not here for you, she said to Ethan. This is my last time engaging with you. Step away from me. The words were calm, the impact was not. Ethan's face hardened. You don't get to tell me what to do, he said flatly. I just did, she replied. That again. That quiet refusal. Logan muttered, damn, under his breath, half amused, half impressed. Ethan heard it, and something inside him snapped, not explosively, coldly. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. So this is who you are now, he said, raising his voice just enough to draw more attention, standing around pretending you're somebody important. She didn't respond. He gestured at the room, at the art, at the people who had slowly drifted closer under the guise of interest. Look around, he continued. These people don't know you. They don't care about you. You think you belong in rooms like this? Arielle lifted her chin. Yes. The word echoed louder than it should have. It meant they were choosing not to intervene. Arielle felt it in the air, the subtle shift where curiosity became entertainment. Ethan straightened, adjusting his coat like he was settling into a role he knew well. The role of the man who controlled the narrative. Just relax, he said lightly, spreading his hands as if he were the reasonable one. You're making this bigger than it has to be. She didn't respond. Her silence unsettled him more than shouting would have. Logan leaned in, lowering his voice just enough to feel conspiratorial. Man, I told you, she's got that look now, real important. Brent snorted quietly, bones still lifted. Yeah, Real exclusive. Arielle's gaze flicked, just once, to the phone, then back to Ethan. "You're done," she said. Not loud, not dramatic, certain. The word done hit him like a challenge. Ethan laughed under his breath. "You always talked like that, like you were above everything." He stepped closer again, invading her space with practiced ease. She could smell his cologne, sharp, expensive, familiar in a way that made old memories stir uninvited. "You know what drove me crazy about you?" he continued, voice low but sharp enough to cut. "You always acted like you were better than where you came from." Her jaw tightened. "You don't get to talk about where I came from," she said quietly. "Why?" He shot back louder now. "Because you upgraded?" Logan laughed openly this time. A few heads turned. "Man, you see this?" Logan said, gesturing at her dress. "Like this makes you somebody." Arielle felt heat crawl up her spine. Not humiliation, anger, the clean kind. "My clothes are not your concern," she said. Brent tilted the phone, angling for her face. "Smile, Arielle. People love a glow-up story." He said her name like it was still his to use. That did something inside her. She took a slow breath. "You don't have permission to record me," she said. "Turn it off." Brent shrugged. "It's a public event." Ethan's lips curved. "See? You do?" A woman nearby stiffened. A man glanced over his shoulder, then back. Ethan's jaw tightened. "You think because you put on a nice dress?" "This dress is mine," Arielle cut in, still soft but firm. "Just like my life is mine, you don't get to decide what I deserve." That was when he reached out. Not to hit her, not to shove her, to grab the strap of her clutch. It was a small, possessive gesture. A reminder. Her body reacted before her mind could catch up. She pulled back, harder than she meant to. The clutch slipped from his grip and hit the pedestal beside the sculpture with a dull thud. The sound carried. Heads turned fully now. Ethan's eyes darkened. "Don't," he said. "Don't touch me," she replied. For a moment it looked like he might laugh it off. For a moment. Then Logan said loudly, "Damn, man. She really thinks she runs this." Brent let out a short, sharp laugh, zooming in tighter. "This is gold." That was when Ethan lost control. Not screaming. Not flailing. He stepped forward, grabbing Arielle's arm. Not violently, but firmly enough to hurt. Enough to be undeniable. "Don't walk away from me again," he said through his teeth. Pain shot up her arm. She gasped, instinctively trying to pull free. "Let go," she said. The room froze. Not because they were shocked, because now they were sure something real was happening. Ethan tightened his grip for just a second longer. A power move. A warning. Then she wrenched her arm back with more force than she realized she had. Her heel caught. Her shoulder bumped the sculpture pedestal. Time slowed. The white stone figure beside her rocked. Someone shouted. Arielle tried to steady herself, hand flying out. Too late. The sculpture tipped. Stone met stone. Glass cracked. The pedestal shifted. Arielle went down with it. The impact was sharp and sudden. Pain exploded through her side and wrist as she hit the floor. Breath knocked from her lungs and a broken sound she couldn't stop. White stone shattered. Fragments skidded across polished floors. Blood bloomed against the pale fabric of her dress. The room erupted. Gasps. Shouts. Someone dropped a glass. Logan swore. Brent didn't stop recording. Arielle lay stunned, trying to draw breath, the world ringing. She felt hands near her but not on her. Felt eyes. Felt the weight of 100 witnesses. Ethan stood over her. Not helping. Not moving. Just staring down at her with something like shock and something darker beneath it. "You okay?" "Still clumsy," Logan said, half laughing. Brent zoomed in closer. "You're insane," he murmured. "This is..." Arielle tried to sit up. Pain flared again, sharp and unforgiving. Her wrist throbbed. Blood smeared against the marble. The world tilted, and still, no sign of Jae-min. For the first time that night, fear threaded through her anger. Not fear of Ethan. Fear that he wasn't here yet. Fear that she was alone in this moment. She lifted her eyes. Ethan was still standing over her, blocking her, not touching her, but not moving out of the way. Arielle met his gaze from the floor. Her voice was unsteady, not weak, unsteady. "Move." He didn't. Around them, security began to stir. Not rushing, not shouting, but the subtle shift of trained bodies repositioning. The room had changed, and Arielle didn't know yet that the most dangerous man in the building had just walked through the doors. For a moment after Arielle hit the floor, the room forgot how to breathe. The quartet in the corner faltered, bows slowing, then stopping altogether as the sound of breaking stone echoed through the gallery. Conversations died mid-sentence. The easy, curated murmur of wealth and culture collapsed into something raw and uncertain. Everyone was looking now. Arielle lay on the marble, stunned, chest rising and falling too fast. The cold of the floor seeped through the thin fabric of her dress. Pain pulsed through her wrist and side, sharp enough to make her vision blur at the edges. She tried to push herself up. Her hand slipped in her own blood. That did it. A collective gasp rippled through the room. No help. Everyone stood complicit with the spectacle unfolding, assuming, maybe she doesn't belong here. Arielle clenched her jaw, refusing to cry out. She hated the feeling of being watched like this, exposed, vulnerable, reduced to a spectacle. She planted her uninjured hand and tried again to sit up. Pain flared white-hot. Her breath hitched despite her. She was strong, but she was still human. And for the first time that night, she felt the thin edge of panic. Not because she was hurt, because Ethan was still standing over her, blocking her view of the room, blocking her way out, not offering a hand, not apologizing, just looming. The posture was familiar, the subtle dominance, the unspoken message, "You're on the ground, remember where you belong." Logan mocked, "Damn, Arielle. You really took a hit." Brent didn't lower his phone. If anything, he stepped closer. "This is wild," he grinned, camera trained on her bloodied wrist, on the broken sculpture, on Ethan standing over her like a judge over a sentence. Arielle's voice came out rougher than she wanted. "Turn it off." Brent glanced at Ethan, not her. Ethan didn't say a word. That was permission enough. The recording continued. 2 guards repositioned quietly at the edges of the gathering crowd, creating space without raising their voices. Another approached slowly, assessing. Arielle saw none of it clearly. Her focus tunneled. Pain, humiliation, the cold knowledge that this moment would live somewhere outside her control. She tried to pull her legs under herself. Her side screamed in protest. Her breath stuttered. Her hand trembled. She hated that more than the blood. Ethan finally spoke. "Don't be dramatic," he said, his voice pitched low but sharp enough for the people closest to hear. "You slipped." She lifted her head, eyes blazing despite the pain. "You grabbed me," she said. The words landed. A ripple of tension moved through the onlookers. Ethan's jaw tightened. "I didn't touch you." Logan shifted. "Man, let's just chill. People are staring." Brent zoomed out slightly, catching all of them in frame now. "This is getting crazy," he murmured, sounding almost pleased. Arielle's chest felt tight. She was losing control of the narrative. She hated that too. She reached for the pedestal beside her, trying to use it to leverage herself up. Arielle swallowed hard. "I'm fine," she whispered to herself. The lie was thin. Arielle looked down. Red smeared across her wrist and palm, across the pale marble, across the hem of her emerald dress. The sight of it made something in her chest twist. Not fear, grief, for the dignity she had fought so hard to maintain. Ethan watched her look. Something unreadable flickered across his face. Not regret, calculation. "You're blowing this out of proportion," he said louder now. "You tripped. That's it." A murmur spread. Some people believed him, some didn't. But uncertainty was enough for men like Ethan. He thrived in it. Arielle's voice was quiet, steady despite everything. "Move," she said again. Ethan didn't. He folded his arms slowly, posture relaxed, like he owned the space around her, like he owned the moment. Logan muttered, "Bro, maybe we should..." Ethan cut him off with a glance. Brent angled the phone higher, capturing Arielle on the floor, the staff member beside her, Ethan standing over her. The image was ugly. It would travel. Arielle felt something inside her crack, not in a way that broke her, in a way that reminded her she did not deserve Malie. She did not deserve to be reduced to this. Her throat tightened. She forced herself to meet Ethan's eyes from the floor. "You don't get to stand over me," she said. He smirked faintly. "Seems like I already am." That was when the air in the room shifted. Not with noise, with presence, not a shout, not a command. A weight settled into the space behind the crowd. A subtle, instinctive awareness rippled outward, the way animals sensed a storm before the sky changed. People began to turn, not all at once, one by one. Heads pivoted. Postures straightened, whispers stilled. Arielle didn't see him yet. She felt him. The space behind Ethan changed. The temperature of the room dropped by degrees. The guards at the edges stiffened. Not with alarm, with recognition. One of them adjusted his stance slightly, angling his body toward the main entrance. Another shifted closer to Ethan and his friends. Not touching, just positioning, containment. Ethan noticed the change. He frowned, irritation flickering. "What is this?" he muttered, glancing around. "What's going on?" Brent didn't answer. He was still recording, but his hand had begun to shake. Logan glanced over his shoulder, distracted. "Yo." "Who's that?" Arielle lifted her head. And for the first time since she fell, hope surged through her pain. Because she knew that feeling. She had felt it 100 times in private rooms, in quiet moments, in spaces where men like Ethan would never be allowed to stand tall. It was the feeling of the world making room, of power arriving without announcement, of Kang Jae-min. She didn't see his face yet. She saw the reaction, people stepping aside, conversations dying, a respectful, almost fearful hush spreading as a tall, broad-shouldered man in a tailored black suit moved through the gallery with controlled, unhurried steps. 2 guards flanked him closely. Others were already inside the room, blocking exits, not aggressively, casually, as if they had always been there. Ethan turned fully now. Confusion first, then irritation, then recognition. Too late. Arielle was still on the floor when Kang Jae-min came into full view, his dark eyes locked onto her immediately. Not the broken sculpture. Not Ethan. Not the crowd. Her. He saw the blood. He saw the way she was holding herself together by sheer will. He saw the humiliation written across her posture, and something dangerous flashed through his controlled exterior. Not rage, something colder, something quieter. Something that made men disappear without anyone raising their voice. He crossed the remaining distance in long, steady strides. He stopped beside her. He knelt, not for the room, for her. His voice was low, steady, and threaded with something that sounded dangerously close to guilt. "I'm sorry," Jae-min said, just to her, 3 words. They landed heavier than any shout. Arielle swallowed hard. Relief washed through her so suddenly it made her dizzy. "You're here," she whispered. "I am," he replied. Then he stood, slowly, deliberately. And for the first time his gaze lifted to Ethan. The room held its breath. Because everyone could feel it now. This was not a man you crossed. This was not a man you embarrassed. This was not a man whose wife you put on the floor. And Ethan had no idea yet how small his world was about to become. The gallery had gone completely still. Not the polite stillness of people pretending to be cultured. The real kind. The kind that came when everyone in a room understood, on some instinctive level, that the balance of power had just shifted, and that nothing they were about to witness was for them. He helped her up carefully, positioning himself between her and the men who had cornered her. His body became a barrier without drama. Kang Jae-min stood at his full height now, tall and immovable, his tailored black suit fitting him like armor. His expression was calm, unreadable, controlled. "You were standing over my wife," Jae-min said. Not a question, a statement of fact. The word wife hit the room like a dropped glass. Ethan's face drained of color. Ethan started. Jae-min cut him off with a look alone. "This is not a conversation," Jae-min said. "This is an ending." The guards shifted. Not dramatically, not aggressively. The exits became unavailable. The room understood. Logan took an unconscious step back. Brent's phone wobbled in his hand. Ethan forced a laugh that didn't land. "This is a misunderstanding. You grabbed her," Jae-min said. Quiet, certain. "You injured her, you stood over her, you allowed her to be recorded." Each sentence landed like a door closing. Jaemin's gaze slid to Brent. "You will delete that," he said. "Not a request." Brent swallowed. A guard stepped into Brent's space. Not touching, just there. Brent's hand shook as he lowered the phone. He turned back to Ethan. "You do not speak to her," Jae-min said. "You do not approach her. You do not exist in her space again." Ethan's voice cracked. "You can't just..." Jae-min stepped closer. Close enough that Ethan had to tilt his head back. Not aggressive. Inevitable. "I can," Jae-min said quietly. "And you will remember this moment for the rest of your life. Not a threat. A sentence." Ethan went still. For the first time he understood. Not fully. But enough. Arielle spoke softly. "Jae-min, I want to leave." He turned to her instantly. All the steel in his posture softened by a single degree. "We're leaving," he said. "To the room, to the situation, to Ethan's illusion of power. not allowing anyone else to touch her. His arm around her was steady, protective, final. As they moved toward the exit, the room parted for them. No one spoke, no one filmed. No one interfered. Behind them, Ethan Cole stood frozen in a gallery that no longer felt safe, even if he didn't yet understand why. The car was silent, not awkward silence, not angry silence. The kind that came when too much had happened for words to fit yet. Jae-min sat beside Arielle, his body angled toward her, one arm resting behind her along the seat back, not touching, not crowding. Just there, a constant. A wall between her and the world. The city lights slid past the tinted windows. Arielle stared at her hands. Her wrist throbbed in a steady, insistent rhythm. The pain was sharp but manageable. What hurt more was the echo of the room, the feeling of eyes, of being watched, of being reduced to something fragile in front of people who had no right to see her like that. "You're shaking," he said quietly. She looked down. Only then did she notice. Her fingers were trembling. She clenched them, embarrassed. "I'm fine." He did not argue. He simply reached for her hand, gently. His touch was warm, steady, grounding. "You don't have to be," he said. That was when it started to break through. Not in tears, in breath. Her lungs hitched, once, twice. She turned her face away, jaw tightening as she tried to keep control. "I hate that it happened there," she said softly. "I hate that people saw." Jae-min's thumb brushed lightly over her knuckles. "They saw the wrong thing," he said. She shook her head. "They saw me on the floor," he corrected her. "They saw you stand up." She swallowed. The driver slowed as they turned onto a quieter street. Jae-min's phone buzzed once. He didn't look at it, not yet. "I was late," he said. The words were simple, heavy. Arielle closed her eyes briefly. "I know," she said. "Your work." "I should have been there," he interrupted quietly. Not defensive, not angry, just honest. "If I had been on time," he continued, "you would not have been alone in that room." Her chest tightened. "You came," she said. "That's what matters." Jae-min didn't answer right away, because for him, that wasn't enough. They reached the building, not a hospital, not a public place. Home, private, safe. The guards opened the doors quietly. Jae-min helped Arielle out himself, his hand steady at her back, his presence shielding her from anything she didn't have the strength to face. Inside, the world narrowed. The noise fell away. The lights were softer, the air still. Arielle exhaled for the first time since the gallery. Jae-min guided her to the sofa. He knelt in front of her again. Not because she needed to be small, because he needed to be close. "Let me see your wrist," he said. She hesitated, not from fear, from pride. "I can—" "Let me," he said gently. She did. He unfastened her clutch and retrieved a small first aid kit from a drawer she didn't even know existed. He cleaned her wound himself, hands steady, jaw tight with restraint. Arielle watched him, the way his focus narrowed. The way his care was precise. The way he treated her injury like it was a personal failure. "It wasn't your fault," she said softly. Jae-min didn't look up. "I allowed the world to touch you without me there," he replied. "That is my responsibility." Her throat tightened. "That's not fair," she whispered. He finally met her eyes. "It is how I live," he said simply. Silence settled again, different now, softer, safer. Arielle's composure began to crack, not dramatically, quietly, the kind of cracking that came when you were finally somewhere you could fall apart. "I kept telling myself I didn't need you for everything," she said. "I wanted to be strong on my own." Jae-min's hands stilled. "You are strong on your own," he said. "That is why this hurt me." She blinked. He continued. "You did not break. You did not beg. You did not become small." His voice lowered. "You stood." And he could not stand that. Tears finally welled. Not because she was weak, because she was tired. "I hate that he still thinks he has power over me," she whispered. Jae-min leaned closer. "He does not," he said. She searched his face. Not for promises, for truth. She found it. Her shoulders shook once, then she broke. Not loudly, not violently. Quiet tears slid down her cheeks. Jae-min did not rush her, he did not shush her, he did not try to fix it. He simply pulled her into him, firm, protective. Her forehead pressed against his chest, his heartbeat steady beneath her ear. She breathed him in. "Home." "I didn't want you to see me like that," she said into his suit. Then you do not understand me, Jaemin replied. She looked up. His expression was raw now, not for the room, for her. There is nothing about you on that floor that made you smaller, he said. There is nothing about you bleeding that made you weak. He cupped her face, gentle, reverent. The only thing that became small tonight, he said quietly, was him. Her breath caught. Jaemin. His phone buzzed again. This time he looked, just a glance. His expression did not change. But something settled into place behind his eyes, the machinery of his world beginning to turn. They still have the video, Arielle said softly. For a little while. Jaemin's jaw tightened. Not for long, he said. Not as a threat. As a statement of reality. She didn't ask what that meant. She didn't need to. She knew him. She knew what happened to men who humiliated what belonged to him. Not loudly, not publicly, systematically, quietly. She rested her head back against him. I don't want to think about them anymore, she said. You won't have to, Jaemin replied. Not because he would tell her what he was doing, but because she would simply wake up one day and notice the world had shifted, and they were gone from it. He kissed her hair, soft, protective, final. You are safe, he said. She believed him. Because tonight she had watched a room full of powerful people make space for one man. And that man was hers. The city did not sleep, but certain men did. And while Arielle rested, wrapped in quiet and safety, Jaemin's world moved, not loudly, not dramatically, precisely. He did not make threats, he did not raise his voice, he did not need to. Things were set in motion that did not require his continued presence. Doors that had once been open began to close. Ethan did not sleep well that night. He lay awake replaying the gallery over and over. The way the room had shifted, the way his name had meant nothing in that moment, the way Kang Jaemin had looked at him like a conclusion. By morning his phone was already buzzing. Not with concern, with silence. His assistant did not answer. A meeting he had counted on was suddenly postponed, then quietly cancelled. An email arrived from a firm he had been courting for months. We've decided to move in a different direction. No explanation, no opportunity to respond. By noon, a board seat he had assumed was untouchable was listed as under review. A donor stopped returning calls. A contact who had always smoothed things over sent a single, careful text. This isn't a good time to be associated with controversy. Ethan finally reached someone who still picked up. What's happening? He demanded. It's like people are freezing me out. There was a pause on the other end. Then, quietly, you should have been more careful about where you made a scene. The line went dead. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt what it was like to fall without anyone reaching to catch him. Brent thought deleting the video had ended it. It had not. The image existed in other places, not online, not public, where consequences lived. By the end of the week, he was called into a closed-door meeting. No small talk, no smiles. A still image was placed on the table. Arielle on the floor, blood on marble. Brent standing over her with his phone. The room was cold. You exercised extremely poor judgment, someone said evenly, and it has raised serious concerns about your character and judgment. Brent tried to explain. No one listened. His access was revoked. His role was quietly eliminated. People who used to respond to his messages left them unread. He discovered that reputation did not disappear with a bang. It dissolved, slowly, silently. Logan told himself he would be fine. He hadn't filmed, he hadn't grabbed her, he had just laughed. That was the story he stuck to. Then the country club stopped returning his calls. Then a charity board asked him to step down for optics. Then a friend pulled him aside at a party. They're saying you were there, the friend said carefully. That you laughed while she was hurt. Logan scoffed. That's not what happened. His friend held his gaze. Doesn't matter, he said. That's how people remember it. Invitations dried up. Introductions stopped. Logan learned something he had never needed to know before. Being adjacent to cruelty made you unwelcome in rooms that pretended to care about respectability. Jaemin did not need to be present for any of it. The people who handled his world understood what was required. He did not give instructions that sounded like revenge. He gave information. He allowed awareness. He let the natural order of power do what it always did. By the time he returned home, what needed to be done was already in motion. Not finished, but inevitable. That night, the apartment was quiet. Jaemin removed his coat, set his phone aside, washed his hands. Only then did he go to Arielle. She was curled on the sofa, blanket around her shoulders, hair loose, face softer than it had been in days. Not small, safe. He sat beside her. Close. "How was today?" she asked softly. Jaemin exhaled. "Final," he said. She didn't ask for details. She didn't need them. "They'll leave me alone now," she said. "Yes," he replied, not because he hoped, because he knew. She leaned into him, rested her head on his shoulder. The world narrowed to warmth and quiet. "I didn't realize how tired I was," she murmured. "You were carrying more than you should have," he said. She smiled faintly. "You're not allowed to be late anymore." A ghost of a smile touched his mouth. "I will try to be perfect," he said. She huffed softly. "That's terrifying." He wrapped his arm around her, firm, protective. "Home." "You were brave," he said. She shook her head. "I was just tired of being small." "You were never small," Jaemin said. "You were surrounded by men who needed you to be." She looked up at him, eyes clear, safe, loved. "That room belonged to you," she said. Jaemin corrected her gently. "No," he said. "It belonged to us." She smiled, this time fully, and for the first time since the gallery, Arielle slept without dreams. 3 weeks later, Arielle stood in a sunlit room and felt nothing but calm. The gallery was different from the one where everything had happened, smaller, quieter, her kind of space. Natural light poured through tall windows, white walls, clean lines. Art that felt intentional instead of performative. The kind of place where people came to look, not to be seen. She moved through the room slowly, hands clasped loosely in front of her, posture relaxed, breath easy. Her wrist had healed, a faint line remained, not a scar, a reminder. She had not hidden it. She hadn't dramatized it either. She had simply kept living. A woman approached her near a framed piece, bold lines, warm tones. "I didn't realize this was yours," the woman said, impressed. "The space, the curation. It feels personal." Arielle smiled. "It is," she said. "That was the point." The woman nodded. "You can feel it, like it belongs to someone who knows who she is." Arielle felt something settle in her chest. Not pride, certainty. Later her phone buzzed. Not with gossip, not with rumors. With information. Not from Jaemin. From her own world. A former colleague sent a simple message, "Did you hear? Ethan Cole. He can't get a job anywhere." Another followed minutes later. "Brent's not in the industry anymore. People won't even say his name." Then one more, quieter. "Logan's basically social poison now. No one wants him around." Arielle stared at the screen for a moment. Not with satisfaction. With closure. She didn't forward the messages. She didn't react publicly. She didn't need to. Their lives, shrinking, did not define hers expanding. That was the difference now. That evening she came home to Jaemin. Not as someone who needed to be held together. As someone who had chosen where she stood. He looked up when she entered, expression softening immediately. "You're late," he said lightly. She smiled. "So are you." He rose and crossed to her, not looming, not guarding, meeting her. "How was your day?" he asked. She slipped her coat off herself, hung it up, moved through the space like she owned it, because she did. "It was good," she said. "I signed the final paperwork." Jaemin's brows lifted slightly. "For the new space?" "Yes." He studied her for a moment, not with concern, with admiration. "You didn't tell me you were ready." Arielle met his eyes. "I didn't need permission," she said gently. A slow smile touched his mouth. "No," he agreed, "you didn't." She stepped closer. "Not for protection, for connection." "I love that you protect me," she said. "But I also love that I protect myself now." Jaemin nodded once. Serious, respectful. "That is why they will never touch you again," he said. "Not because of me." She tilted her head. "Then why?" "Because you are no longer someone they can make small." She reached for his hand, not trembling, steady. "They never were," she said. "They just thought they were." Jaemin's grip tightened slightly. Pride, not possession. Pride. They stood there in quiet, two people who had walked through fire and come out clearer. Not broken, not defined by what had been done to them, defined by what they chose next. Arielle rested her head briefly against his chest, not because she needed shelter, because she wanted closeness. "We're good," she said. Jaemin pressed a kiss to her hair. "We're more than good," he replied, and for the first time the story did not end with her being saved. It ended with her standing. Power doesn't always shout, sometimes it walks into the room. And everything changes. If this story moved you, give us a like and subscribe for more cinematic mafia romances and powerful love stories. I'll see you in the next one.